Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the Crafted Edge podcast. I'm your host, JW Terrio, along here with Mr. Jason Tippy and Mr. Don
What's up?
Watson. How's it
Yep.
going, guys?
Good, man. How y'all doing?
Good,
Still
man.
fat,
Good.
but other than that, I'm doing okay.
Hey, man.
Well, so what you guys been up to?
Oh, man. Go ahead. Yep.
I trying to get some sleep. It's not working.
Not working?
I pulled blades out of the oven last night at 12:01. So,
Well, we're going to keep this one short and sweet. So tonight we're going to talk about,
don't believe it.
This is kind of a touchy subject maybe with some makers, but we're going to talk about some knife handle material.
Addictions.
It's an addiction for me. Yeah.
Oh,
So-
man. We're still going to be friends after all this, right?
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
we're, Tippy was kind of giving us a little,
I remember they said that. So,
a little intro into kind of,
Mhm.
an insight into what he wanted to talk about with this. So we're going to let him go first.
There you
We're
go.
going to let him, because
okay. All right.
I'm interested.
I'm the sacrificial lamb.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
handle material.
So I think I'm outnumbered 2-1. So I know, and you guys, if y'all follow Don Watson Knives or you follow Boot State Knives or Boot State Forge, you know that these two fellas really like their natural woods, their stabilized woods, and it's all really pretty, and I admire their work. It's wonderful. I, however, am not a huge fan of wood handles. Not because they're ugly. Some of them are ugly. Not all of them. It's not me. Here it comes.
Ooh, that pretty
Joey,
much
go ahead and
burrow.
put yours up there too.
That's just beautiful, brother.
So
That is some
Yeah,
pretty
we-
Buckeye burrow.
yeah.
So yeah, I tend to use a lot of natural woods. So here's some pretty for everyone to see some. This is kind of really
Oh,
cool
yeah.
wood.
Beautiful, man.
This is some poplar burl,
Oh, yep.
kind of some ingrain. I think it's got some
Mhm.
ingrain in there. And so
Well, it
this is
looks
a
like.
really cool wool. Yeah, really cool. So I tend to use a lot of those. Typically you can pretty much look at someone's Instagram and kind of see, what they like. Looking at tips, you can tell he uses a lot of synthetic G10 micarta. Carbon
Micarta.
fiber is probably one of his favorites, I would say.
I love me some
Mm.
carbon fiber.
Yeah, I knew.
Um,
I do too.
I don't like to breathe it.
Yeah.
I recommend respirator, Kevlar sleeves for your arms.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
You know,
Yeah,
maybe like that.
absolutely.
maybe like one of them bubbles. You know that movie in the 80s. You know the kid in
Yep.
the bubble. I
Yeah.
would recommend that when
Yeah,
grinding
pretty,
carbon fiber. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's beautiful. And then
Pretty
you start
much-
throwing like the bronze and the gold wire into it. It's just I don't know.
Yeah, I've used that
Sorry.
carbon fiber with the gold and copper wire in it before as spacers
Mhm.
in some material. But yeah, you typically with your synthetics, always, pretty much with anything with stabilized wood too. And certain woods like African black wood, you definitely want to be wearing a respirator with all of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Always.
But
Even when you're grinding, I mean, just grinding blade or anything, that
Oh, yeah.
stuff gets in the air, and you need to be wearing a respirator. I always recommend wearing one, and it
Mhm.
also helps from the sparks flying in your mouth. I've coined a phrase a few years ago: grind with your mouth shut. There's a reason.
I heard that.
Always grind with your mouth shut. Learn from other
Good
people's
tip.
mistakes, y'all.
Good tip.
That's a
Yep.
crafted edge tip right there.
There you go.
Tool Tip Tuesday. Here we go.
Tool Tip Tuesday. So if you look at Don's Instagram and some of his posts, you kind of see pretty much across the board because Mr. Watson there, just like me, he likes using a lot of natural wood. Don comes from a wood background. Don was
Yeah.
a wood turner.
Mhm.
So he's very
Right.
familiar with all his woods. And so you kind of see on his Instagram account, you'll see some beautiful burl wood. You'll see some G10, some micarta, some vintage micarta.
Epoxy.
So, yep. Don also cast. He does his own casting.
Mhm.
I actually have a couple blocks from Don where he casted some maple burl with some beautiful epoxy. But yeah, all those typical, woods, Don, you see them on, Buckeye burl, bunch of different ones. But it's almost like Don said, it's really an addiction, because if you're a handle material snob, you see something, man, you got to have it. You're like, oh man,
That's
and look,
right.
you don't need it. You
Oh man.
you don't need it. It's not like you need it. It's like, what? And then after you buy it and get it, you're like, why did I buy this? I have like 57 blocks. Like, why did I buy this? Because you're thinking in your head, hey,
man.
I'm going to put this. Oh, wait, I know the perfect knife for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then that
Yeah.
changes.
Yep.
And then
It
that
takes
changes.
you 3 years to build that knife.
Yeah, it changes. It's like, well, or you get very selective. I don't know if you guys do this, but I'll look at a block and say, oh yeah, I'm going to put it on. Well, maybe later. Maybe I'll use that later, and I'll just change the whole thing, and then the whole vision for the knife build changes. And so always pushing that, that pretty burl piece back, like, I don't want to use that. It's so pretty.
You want to save it for, something special.
Yeah.
Right.
And despite popular belief on this podcast, I actually do use natural materials every once in a while.
I know you do, for
really,
a fact.
to be honest with you, I like mammoth ivory.
Oh,
and my favorite handle material as far as looks go is mammoth tooth or mammoth molar. I think that is some of the most gorgeous material. Now, I don't like working with it.
Yeah.
And because it's a beast, but my Lord, that's some of the prettiest. But even at that, I think sometimes it has to be on the right knife. It has to flow. You were going back to last episode, we were talking about knife design. It's got to flow, and that handle material has to flow with the overall design of the knife, because you can have a great looking knife and have some ugly handles on it, and it wrecks the overall look. And you can have an ugly knife and some pretty handles on it, and it's like, man, if they'd have put those on another knife, it would look really nice. And so that's
Yeah, I think we've
like I said, I hope we're all still friends after this.
Yeah, man, we still love you.
I've got my. I appreciate that. Thank you.
We'll pray for
I've
you.
got my own opinions about.
pray
I need it. Oh God, I need it.
But no, I think we can all relate to that. I really can. I really do. I think we can all relate to that as makers, where we've designed a knife, had a vision for it, built it, but maybe we made the wrong handle material choice, or we've made a beautiful blade that just, had the wrong handle material, or vice versa, like Jason was saying, where you just have an ugly blade with some beautiful handle material.
Say that loud. Say ugly. Some people make ugly knives. Kind of mumbled that part, Joe. Let's just call it what it is. Some people make ugly stuff.
Yeah, I know. When I first started, I did. I was making some pretty ugly prison shanks. So
I don't believe that, Joe. I honestly
I don't have a hard time believing that.
Knowing you like I do, and knowing that you've only been making knives, 3 or 4 years, maybe?
That's 4 years now.
And
4 years.
You're an award-winning knife maker. And
Amen.
yes, I am going to throw that out there,
right.
because I know it embarrasses you and it makes you feel uncomfortable and awkward, and I enjoy doing that to you sometimes. But there's very few people that I know that win 2 awards at the same show.
That's right.
Well, I was told that, again, I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful that all the other makers that were there felt that those were the best knives in those categories, and
I voted
it was a very, very humbling. It was very humbling experience. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but back to knife handle material again. It's very subjective to from maker to maker. from what it seems like. Don's, like I said, Don's kind of like me. He kind of uses a broad range of different materials. In me in particular, certain knives need a certain handle material. Wouldn't y'all agree?
I agree. 100%.
Absolutely. That was the thought brewing in my head, because you can put the wrong handle material on a blade and it greatly reduces, if doesn't just do away with, its utility.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. You can. Go ahead, Don.
I mean that's. Go ahead, Don.
This big chopping knife here, I would not put a real nice burl handle on it.
No.
Now, when I first started making,
why do you say that?
Well, when I first started making knives, man, because I came out of the wood turning world and I do my own stabilizing, so I have access to a lot of really nice exotic woods. But I found out over time that when you take a big chopper, you want it to hold up. So I would go with a Micarta, a G10 or something like that, because you flaying, you busting this thing on trees and stuff like that. And I just think a burl would look beautiful on it, but I don't think it would hold up to the task. That's my opinion, though. That's just me. So I
agree 100%.
Well, there's no written rule. I mean, can you put a piece of burl on that knife?
Most vessels, yes, you can.
Yeah, you can.
But would it be functional for what it's designed to be used for?
I mean, it could still function, but if they're going to be, if the intended purpose of this knife is going to be somebody banging it throughout the woods, do you really want to put a nice piece of? I mean, if they want to pay for it, fine.
Yep.
But are you going to put a pretty piece of $70 block of burl on this thing?
Okay. So say the customer, wants a big chopper, and they said, "Man, I want you to put some mammoth molar on there," and but that's what they want. So who's to say when when they go out and use it the first time and that those handles blow apart, because they will with the impact.
Yep.
I may be throwing a grenade in here. I don't know. Who's to say that's not your fault for putting that on there? Because you should have said something. Well, even if I did say something and you come back, so it decreases the ability of that blade to function to its peak performance as it was designed.
Yep.
No,
that's my issue. That's my issue with some handle materials on some knives. I'm not against pretty wood handle material. Okay, I don't use it a whole lot, mainly because I get.
Oh, watch out now! Whoa, greatness!
See this, and I said this before we started, and I'm gonna say it again. This proves I'm the redheaded stepchild of this show, because both of them got the same piece of this nice, pretty stabilized wood. See the knife I made with it? See it, guys? Y'all see that pretty wood handle? Yeah. See?
Well,
Joe and Don got some pretty wood, but Tippy's over here stuck.
I got you covered, Tip. I got you covered.
Yeah. No, actually, Joey's giving me like 30 pounds of stabilized wood out of his shop. I can't say much. So, but I don't have any of that. Just throwing it out there, Don.
There you go. You got
Florida.
From Florida. No, I agree.
I need a nap. That's what. That's what it all boils down to.
The thing is, like you were saying, Tip, if that's what the customer wants, you as a maker knowing the vulnerabilities of the mammoth molar, knowing that it's not going to be, it's not going to hold up to the impact. This knife was intended to be used for as a chopper. But let's say they still demand it. No, I really want molar on my chopper.
Yeah.
So
give it to them.
I mean, I agree. If a customer wants something and wants to pay for it, I'm all for it. However, you have to. I think it's to be ethically right. I think you have to say, be upfront and honest with them. Communication is key.
Exactly.
Say, hey, look, I know this is pretty stuff, and this is what you really want, and I'll do it. This is what it's going to cost. However, the first time you swing that and hit something solid, there's a real good chance that that's going to come apart, and I
Yeah.
can't fix it.
And you
Yeah.
own it.
You know,
You own it.
I mean,
Mhm.
I'll
So
make
you're-
you another set of handles,
Mhm.
but it's going to cost
Yep.
to make another set of handles.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's really something that we as an industry, and I think for the most part, people, you know, most makers are that way. You know, we've got a good industry, we really do. But that's part of why I steer. I guess I kind of lead towards this more synthetics as far as handle material, just because a lot of the stuff that I build is like what Don was saying, is field use.
Field grade,
You know, and
utilitarian.
it doesn't warp, it doesn't crack, it doesn't, you know, it's
Exactly.
not. It can take a beating, and that's what it's
Bulletproof.
for.
It's bulletproof.
Yeah, our whole production line is well, yeah. I've been telling people lately, I said we make it ugly so you don't have to. I mean, it's not. It doesn't have a pretty blade finish.
I like that.
It's not meant to. It's this is what it's designed for.
Meant to work.
We use OD green and black handles. That's it. I mean, that's what we put on them. It's not meant to look pretty. It's meant to go out there and just beat the snot out of it, and it still function. You know, but that's the design. Now, if I build a $3,000, $4,000 pocket knife, and
There's your mammoth,
you know,
too.
yeah, that's where you're putting, you know, mammoth ivory or mammoth molar, or, you know, some museum grade desert ironwood, whatever the material is. But you're also doing engraving and gold inlay or whatever, you know. So, but that doesn't negate the functionality of what that is, because really the functionality of that is an art piece. It's a collector's piece.
Mhm.
And so the chance of somebody using it to, you know, pry baseboards are pretty low. They're not
Yep.
zero, because I've heard stories about that. You know,
Oh man, that's an expensive problem.
oh, it was.
Oh,
and,
man.
it was bad. But anyway, you know, that's more along the lines, and it's not going to affect the functionality of that blade if you put a more impact sensitive handle material on there.
Mhm.
And that's where to me, a lot of the stabilized woods are kind of the best of both worlds, because it reduces the likelihood of warping and cracking, but still has the beauty of the handle material.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think where we get wrong with it, we start dyeing it, and that's just
Well,
just personal preference.
Uh-oh.
And
You know,
Yep.
I was told by.
I told you, Donna, I love you. I still love you. Please don't.
Well, I was told by, you know, a guy that, you know, sells handle material and stabilizes for a living, and that, you know, even though the wood is stabilized, it can
shrink.
still move.
Right.
Mhm.
It can still
Yeah,
move on you.
And I like I said, that's to me is the best of. It's kind of the mixture of the two.
Mhm.
You know, now the epoxy.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Oh, the
Come on.
casted.
Let's walk this road, baby. We'll hold hands. Come on now.
Oh man, I've made 2 knives with an epoxy and wood mix,
Mhm. Oh,
Mhm.
it's called
and
a
I fought
hybrid handle.
the hybrid handles. To me, I'm
It's a no for
it's
you.
plastic.
That's a-
It's plastic, and
Yeah.
you know, when you're used to building stuff, now it's pretty.
Mhm.
Some of it's ugly as sin. I mean, in my opinion, but
Mhm.
that's just my personal opinion. That and $12 gets you a coffee at Starbucks. But you know, to me, it's plastic, so the functionality of it just kind of tanks for me. But like I said, some of it looks pretty. I built it. You know, I built 2 pocket knives for a good friend of mine, for him and his dad, a couple years ago for Father's Day, and he picked out the handle material, and it was a hybrid wood epoxy handle material.
Mhm.
It looks cool, but if you drop it, and these were, and here's the deal: it was going to be something they're carrying.
Mm.
So if you drop it and it lands on that end,
Yeah.
it's either going
There's-
to be dented, scratched, or cracked.
Yeah.
Now, if it hits the wood side, you got a little bit better of a chance of it not being
Mhm.
destroyed. But if you, and the reason I know that is because I bought extra sets of handles because I wanted to see what would happen, and it was not pretty. Now I can break steel, so you can imagine what I did to some epoxy. It was, but again, it goes back to personal preference of the end user. You know, if you like that kind of stuff and if you want to be able to kind of, I guess, for lack of a better word, coddle it a little bit more, then, you know, whatever.
So most of them knives, I mean, like I said, I make work knives, so I try to hold back on a lot of the really nice, I mean, kitchen knives. I mean, my chef knives, I've used that hybrid handle of chef knives because they're more delicate use versus, you know, you wouldn't want to put that one on a big chopping knife or nothing like that. So it all goes down to your use. What is you using it for?
Yeah.
I mean, I put them on hunting knives, and I've been making knives. June will be 3 years, and I gave my buddy his knife back then probably 2 years ago, and he uses it every hunting trip, fishing, and it still looks like brand new. And it's a hybrid handle.
Yeah.
Also,
he hadn't had any issues with it.
Nope, no issues.
Maybe I'm just wrong. That's possible.
I think so. No, I'm just saying I got several guys that uses epoxy handles that I use, you know, hybrids.
Yeah.
And they're still going strong, man. I mean, trust me, if it broke off or broke, they would call me. You know, they'd say, "Hey, man, you know what happened here or whatever." And I just told them, I said, "Hey, you know, use it pry bar, man. You know, a lot of guys, you know, I've had knives. I got my first knife when I was 8 years old, and I've never popped a tip on a knife all these years.
Oh.
Never have. You know why? Because I was taught if you need a screwdriver, go get a screwdriver.
Screwdriver, yeah.
Don't use your knife as a thing.
Have you ever, no, it's just getting honest today, have you ever used a pocket knife or any kind of knife as a screwdriver?
No.
Absolutely.
Nope.
You've never done it, Joe?
I said absolutely.
Oh, okay. I thought you said no.
No,
so
absolutely.
We got opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm not going to say what I do. Anyway.
So what I'm hearing is it typically, you tend to stick to the G10 and the micarta.
Yep, and that's good too. That's a good.
Yeah.
I guess because lately I've been making more of I guess what you'd call user grade or field grade or whatever you want to talk about it. And I'll get into that. I bought some beautiful mammoth molar at the Belleville show.
Oh,
and
is that
Charles Turnage? And it's like a royal blue. It's got all different. It's all blues.
Is it dyed?
Gorgeous stuff.
Are you saving that for?
No idea.
Stabilized.
It might be. It
is that being saved for a folder, or is that gonna? Is it a big piece, or where you can kind of use it on another knife, like a collab knife or something?
No, that's not going on a collab knife. That's going on one of my. I would love to, man. I don't know. I had an idea of putting it on that that big belly Skinner that I've got. I was supposed to have at the Belleville show, but due to all the sickness and everything, wasn't able to get someone out there. I did the Vine file work on.
Oh yeah.
And thought about putting it on there because I want to engrave the bolsters on that too. But we'll see.
Yep.
So,
yeah, that's the thing, about that mammoth molar. That stuff's expensive. And you could easily spend $150, $200 on a good premium piece of mammoth ivory.
Yeah, some of it's they stabilize most of it. They have to stabilize it, and a lot of them they dye it too. So some of it's dyed.
Then there's so much, you get in, we're talking about handle material tonight. I had like 5 or 6 guys saying, whatever you do, put some backing on it when you go to drill it or cut it or anything like that. And then I know I tried to use it one time years ago, and I just started making knives because I just thought it was so pretty. And I literally blew it apart. I mean, it was just, I didn't know what I was doing, I still don't really know what I'm doing, but, I can cover up my mistakes a lot better.
I doubt that. Yeah.
But, I've got a tile saw out there. But, it's those little things, and that's what I love about our industry. I was standing at the table buying handle material, and I had other knife makers coming up and say, "Hey, and we were having a conversation. They weren't just spitting out information because they felt like I was too stupid to know what to do. I may have that look on my face sometimes, but I was talking to them and they said, "Man, I really like that handle material." And I said, "Yeah, I'm excited about it." He said, one particular individual said, "Well, do you mind if I give you some advice?" I'm like, "Oh no, please do." And he said, "Make sure it's got a backing on it. When you go to drill it, tape the top of it so that it doesn't chip out." And he was talking about what drills and different things to use and all this kind of stuff. It's all of that factors into, to me, to handle material choice and and all that kind of stuff, because there's a lot to it. I mean, how do you drill mammoth ivory? If you're wanting to keep bark on the outside, how do you drill it?
I don't know. I've never messed with it.
Yeah, I've never really messed with mammoth ivory.
So, and I saw one, Mr. Hoffman, Jay Hoffman Knives.
Oh yeah.
He had a video I saw it today of a jig, whatever it is, and I'm gonna get me one. I need one, but he uses it because he does tapered tangs when it keeps the pins perpendicular, to the drill press.
Right. Yeah.
So when you have something like mammoth ivory where you've got the bark and it's got a curve,
like a V block,
exactly. That's what they made it for.
You have to drill from the back end.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have one of those vices, or you have to build
like
something on your drill press to where you can go through and drill from the back end. But here's the problem.
Because it's shaped like this.
Yeah, and you can't, because if you try to come from the top, you're gonna have all kinds of issues.
It's got that radius.
And so stuff like that factors into handle material choice.
And time too. In your time.
Yeah.
Because it's, I mean,
are you trying to make a price point knife?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you making an art piece? Or, what's your end goal? What are you building?
Yeah, when I think of mammoth ivory, that's what I think of. I think of, an art piece.
Yep.
Yeah.
An art piece, a collector's item. That's probably the only thing I would ever put mammoth ivory on.
Yeah, me too.
I've used it a little bit, but it's expensive, and if you don't do it right, you can sure waste a whole lot of money real quick.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
and
also
ivory cracks if you get too hot. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it.
Well, another thing you have to think about too is when you're doing, let's say, I've never done mammoth tooth, whatever. It's beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
I definitely, if I was going to do that, I would definitely have to go to Facebook Marketplace and get me a good tile saw and cut it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's probably the best thing. But when you're doing stabilized woods, or woods in general, there's a lot of time in that when you're trying to flatten your blades, flatten your blanks. There's some time involved with that. Make sure your blanks are flat, especially if you're going to add a liner to it. I know me and Joey was talking about that when he was doing the poplar burl and the buckeye burl. It took a lot of time getting that flat to still glue onto the blade itself. So so it takes time to make sure it's flat and everything. So
and I typically go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Versus buying your G10 slab, your micarta slab. I mean, sometimes they come in a little wonky, but it don't take much to get them back to get them, flat.
Yeah, I was told a while back, don't assume that G10 is flat.
Yeah, don't, because I found it's
right.
Not. I found it. Or your vintage micarta comes in bowed. It'll come in bowed.
Man, yeah.
It's sitting on the shelf for 40 years.
I did. And, that's unfortunate because, that's just the vendor not, paying a close enough attention to the stuff they're sending out. But me and Don had actually spoke about that. When these last two knives I did, and I put, the burl handles on them, I spent, 2 days on just the handles.
Yep.
Because I had to, they were in block form. So I had to cut scales out of them. Then I had to get them flat. Then I had to fill in all the little, little
Bark
crevices,
inclusions. Bark
Yeah.
inclusions. Yeah, all the little inclusions and everything. And then, make sure that they were fully filled, with the CA glue, the colored CA glue. And then I had to, shape them and sand them and, clean them up. And so, I spent 2 days, working on them because of that. So that's what Don was talking about was, why it took so much time to get them flat because,
Yeah.
they, it's something about Burl Woods and knife makers. They love the ugliest piece of wood there is on the tree.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
root balls,
Yeah.
the root balls and all the burls and all that. And typically those woods have a lot of inclusions in them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so,
Rocks,
or voids,
stones.
Yeah.
Yep,
We
voids.
used to, of course, growing up in West Texas, we had a hunting lease, and they would go in what they call grub them. I don't know what they call it out here. They generally don't have to do stuff like that, as far as I know. But they would go out with a track hoe and pull up a bunch of mesquites, and then they'd pile them up in a pile and set them on fire. And I don't know if you've ever seen mesquite burl. It's some of the prettiest handle material.
It's
beautiful.
I made pins out of it. Pretty.
However, I will say when you're cutting up a root knot on a mesquite, be mindful that there will be rocks in there.
Yeah.
The mesquite will grow in and around everything. And that's an educational experience.
Yeah,
Buckeye burl same way.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's beautiful. It's beautiful material. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Let me ask you this, Joe, and Don, you as well. When you talk about getting blocks and different things, maybe for our guys that maybe haven't been making for as long, how are you slabbing those off and making your handle scales?
You want to take that, Don, and then I'll go ahead after
talking
you.
about making the scales.
From the blocks.
I do my own processing, so I try to run about 7/8 thick on the block. And then what I do, I glue. I showed this on my Instagram. You can see it on Don Wants and Knives. But I take and use my table saw and my miter slot, and I slab them off 1/4 inch or 3/8 or whatever I need. And I can get them fairly flat with a good blade. I can get them. You just have to touch them up afterwards to get them flat. That's how I do it. I use my table saw with a good blade, and you can get them almost. But you'll have to adjust them a little bit and get them flat. Yeah. But that's the way I do mine. Joey?
Yeah. I've used the table saw before. I've actually made a sled. Don kind of helped me out and kind of coached me and told me how to make a sled. So I made a sled for the little table saw. Now I don't have a floor model table saw like Don. I got a little job site kind of table saw. So it's not as strong, as Don's will be. But another method I do use is on my little Portaband. So I got one of those. Oh man, it's on those little tables. What are they called?
Swag. The swag table.
Swag table.
Money. That's
cool,
money spent right there. Yeah.
Yep. So I got a swag table, and I got my old Milwaukee Portaband in one of those little swag tables. And what I'll do is I get a piece of angle iron, and I'll measure from the blade and the blade slot
exactly
how much I want, and then I'll clamp that angle iron there, and then I'll go in there in the bandsaw and slab off, a couple of scales.
That works good too. Yep.
Yeah, and then I'll go to the grinder and start getting them flat. But I'll always
not at all like what I do.
Yeah, I'll slab them off and clean them up on the grinder, and then I'll always go to my granite surface block.
Yeah,
and sit there and get. I'm talking till they stick. Like I want those scales sticking.
Yeah, you mean that 9-inch sander, right? That 9-inch disc sander. If you got one, you can do it on the.
Oh
yeah, that's what you clean it up on.
Yep. And then still I go to the block.
The block, yes.
Yep. So you can do it without going to, if depending on what equipment you've got in your shop. There's ways of doing it. Sometimes it takes a lot more elbow grease, and that can be time consuming and frustrating. But I think it goes back to what are you trying to achieve at the end of the day? Is this something
Right.
that are you trying to make a museum piece, or are you something that's going to be out there chopping brush out or whatever like that? But also it goes back to I think to the maker's preference of what is my design, what is my style, I guess would be a better way of putting it, or how I do my handle material and that kind of stuff. But that's just my thoughts.
Well, I know that if you go synthetic, like your micarta G10s, carbon fiber, Rich Light is another one that's coming up. Rich Light, I know you've used Rich Light. Paper micarta, I know Tip really loves that paper micarta ivory.
Especially the bone ivory one.
The bone ivory is just superb.
That stuff's demonic, and I don't receive that at all. I hate that stuff. It's god awful.
Shit. You have to finish it.
I don't want to.
You
don't
have
make
to
me
finish
do it,
it,
Joe.
It's I told you it was going to be
You didn't tell me it was going to be that bad.
I did. I told you what you needed to get these things finished.
You lied to me.
But look, once that stuff's finished, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Like,
yeah, man.
It's beautiful.
But the 4 weeks it's going to take me to get it there is what I don't want to go through.
I mean, you seen that one I sent you on my Instagram. It's that buttercream. We call it's caramel cream. I think they call it at Pops.
I named it buttercream.
Joey names it buttercream.
I calls it
and will that burn? Yeah. You got slow. I can say one thing. Tip doesn't have a VFD on this grinder, so it's kind of hard for him.
Right.
To really.
We can't slow nothing down.
Can't slow it down. So you have
turn it off.
Yep. You're between a rock and a hard place there, but being that there's so much different handle materials today. There's carbon fiber. I had a friend of mine, in fact, Manny, Parable Knives. He's dropping a batch in this month, but problem is when he was drilling out the carbon fiber, it would like to crack and split out. And Tip, what do you do on that how do you keep that carbon fiber from splitting out, or
wonder if you had a wood backing.
So one of the things that I've learned using carbon fiber G10, anything that's got a material in it, like a fiber, like your micartas and that kind of stuff. Sharp drill bits and your speeds and feeds on your drills. They're going to make a difference. Clear out, what the machining industry calls pecking, where you're kind of just working that drill down back, and you got to clear out the flutes, because what you're creating is more of a rounded end instead of 2 sharp ends on a drill. And so when you go to push that through, it's not cutting; it's kind of just rubbing it. Okay. And so sharp drill bits, keeping the flutes clear, running, making sure your speeds and feeds. And what I do, honestly, is part of that is manufacture the quality of the carbon fiber or micarta, whatever it is. I've used several different places that make carbon fiber. Some of them are good, some of them aren't. I found a place, this last sheet of carbon fiber I got came from a place out in California, and they actually manufacture for, if I read everything right, which I've slept since then, but they do like aerospace and that kind of stuff. And the quality of it was just through the roof. I haven't found any voids, which, you can get that from time to time, and that's just part of the process. But it really, that's what it all boils down to. So it on the other end of that, if you do get, where it splinters out or it flares out, CA glue is a wonderful thing. The real runny stuff, I wouldn't use the thin stuff, but you've got there's processes to it. Okay. So like, just quick example, I was actually drilling some G10, and how it happened, we're not going to discuss that because y'all people think I'm stupid. Anyway, so what I did, I'd already drilled the hole, countersunk it, and all kinds of stuff. My countersink drill was not sharp, and anyway, kind of blew the hole out. And it was out on the back side of it. So anyway, what I did is I taped the hole on the back side of it and just filled it up with CA glue. This was not for something I sold, so just for everybody knowing, this was, I do test pieces, go in there, see how it's going to react to your drills, what speeds, do I need to increase the RPMs, all that kind of stuff. And, so I went back in and I just taped it shut so we wouldn't have glue running out all over my drill press, and just filled it up and let it cure, let it sit overnight, and then come back in and
re-drill,
pull the tape off, went from the back end so it's still centered where it's supposed to be, drilled my pilot hole out, and then came back from the top end and drilled my countersink. And what that did is everywhere that it had splintered out now had glue or CA glue in there, and kind of filled in the gaps, and then you can stand it flat.
Yeah.
So you still got a crisp corner on your countersink, because I use a lot of screws.
He does.
And that's how I've been doing it for a long time. It's worked real well. I even do that with stabilized woods or wood material if I'm putting screws or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you have to be careful. As it blows out too much, I mean, there's really not much you can do. You're going to have to start over.
I mean, it could.
But if you got just little bitty flakes or something like that, you can fix it. But
I think maybe because I know he uses screws too, and it's countersink, so he's having his trouble through his. I think when he does his countersink hole, so he may have like you said, may have a dull drill. I mean, I mean, they get dull, and carbon fiber is not the best to be drilling in anyway.
It's brutal. G10 carbon fiber is some of the most abrasive materials to cut.
Exactly.
And so, especially eat end mills too, like crazy.
Well,
they will eat end mills.
I know, coming from the woodworking background, I mean, done a little bit of woodworking, wood turning, and I found out when you're going to drill in wood or anything like that, you always back it. You either back it with tape, or another piece of wood or something.
Yeah.
That way it protects it will support the fibers as that drill goes in and comes out. It will protect the fibers. G10 will split out on you. You'll see a little, it'll crush you. I guess blow out on you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Micarta really will do it. And that right there will do it too.
Buckeye burl.
The Buckeye burl, any burls, anything like that, when it comes through, it just pushed the fibers out. So make sure y'all guys out there, listeners, if y'all drilling your G10, your micartas, anything like that, just back it. I always put tape on it, or put wood in it, back it. That way when it pops through, it's supporting the fiber. So
very good.
That's a tip. That's a tip.
Do y'all change your speeds on your drill? Do y'all change your speeds on your drill for different materials?
Not really, no. I run it fairly slow.
No.
I mean, I have the ability.
The same speed for your metal as you are for your.
I have the ability to change it. On
I do
small
too. I have 16 speed, so.
Yeah. But if
I was just curious.
Yeah. If I have to on mine, I have to swap the belt over to the pulley on the side and
the belt.
Yeah.
But well, with that, guys, we're coming up on 47 minutes on this handle material topic. So I guess we'll start winding it down.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
So we know where Tippy stands.
And if you have any issues with anything that was said on the episode tonight, you can contact Don Watson at Don Watson Knives on Instagram. And he's going to handle. He is our complaint department, so he handles all that. So if you have any issue with anything me or Joe said, talk to Don, and we'll let him take care of it. So
I do have one more tip for the listeners. This way I do it. If you're going to use excuse me, if you're going to use any type of woods or stabilized woods, burls, stuff like that, I would definitely suggest using a liner with them. That
Good
right
tip.
there will keep it stable, because you can make, I mean, especially your woods. I mean, I just recommend using a liner, because when you glue that liner to that wood, that kind of stables it to help it keep it from moving.
Okay.
Because I live in Florida, and it's about a 13 to 14% moisture rate down here. Even, but if you send a knife from here to Arizona, where it's got maybe about a 4,
Yeah, it's
it
real
starts
airy.
it could do some shrinking. So I always,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
weird
always would
stuff
use a
happens.
liner material with your woods or with your stabilized
Mm.
woods. So that's my little tip there.
Well,
Cool. That's a good
which
one.
is a good tip, Don. That's a very
Yeah.
good tip. Typically, it kind of depends on the shape and condition of the burl for
Mhm.
me. Like on this one, I probably should have used the liner. Didn't. But I do have some wood, some spaghetti
Mhm.
burl oak, and this thing is just full of voids. Full of voids.
Yeah.
It's
And
not my fault, Joe. I didn't make the tree.
He didn't make the
you
tree.
you better put a liner on that stuff. You better.
About 40 pounds of CA glue too. That stuff's
Yeah.
brutal. I know which one he's talking about, because
Yeah. But no, I think we touched on some good stuff. Hopefully someone gets something
Absolutely.
out of it.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we'll close it up. So
And talk about
again,
our
we
friends. About our
yeah,
friends.
again, I just want to mention our friends over at AmeriBraid. Everyone, you go to the AmeriBraid.com and check out. They're giving 20% off to all our listeners on all their accessories for their grinders. So just at checkout, type in Crafted Edge 20 and get 20% off on any of their accessories for their grinders. So
That's
go give them a look. Yeah. Give them a look. Check it out.
Appreciate
Eric and Kevin over at AmeriBraid, super awesome guys.
Yep,
and
they are.
we love having them as friends of the show. So with that, guys,
Absolutely.
I think we'll all say, we appreciate everyone listening,
Yep.
and we'll see y'all next time on the Crafted Edge podcast. Thanks,
Y'all have
guys.
a good week.
Yeah.
Be safe.
Yep.
Good night.